Hi everybody, Creative Katie here. Welcome to my channel and an art journal tutorial. I'm actually doing the cover of my art journal, and here is a sneak peek of the finished project. So I'm starting with this printable, and it's a kind of collage sheet that I've printed off. It's a digital, and I could just glue this down flat. And I decided that I didn't want that. I wanted a little bit more texture, and so I'm just ripping off the straight edges and taking the pieces of this that I want. Now you could find like a bingo card or a flower or French script or different each of these different elements and print them off on separate pieces of paper and then collage them on as well. Now, I'm wearing my latex glove on my hand. As many of you know, I had surgery on my hand, and it's been a week and it's been driving me crazy. I haven't been able to create, so I bought some latex gloves now that the pain has subsided somewhat, and I need to create. This is my happy place. And I chose this printable because it had the word art on there. And this is for the cover of my art journal. So I'm just ripping and really building up that texture. And since I want that word art to show, I'm trying to think, although I do not have a definitive plan of what I want this to look like at the end, beyond using these vintage papers and some tissue paper. I so I'm kind of going going instinctually. And a lot of times when you are doing it, where you place things, you're just following your instincts. It's not a matter of right or wrong, it's a matter of go with the flow and try it. And I always sit back and I analyze afterwards, did I like this, or what would I do different next time? So, one thing that I've started using is liquid matte medium. This is the Liquitex brand, and I had this bought this a long time ago and did not like it. But I'm finding for collaging these thinner papers down, I really like it. It goes down faster. It just really works. So much so that I bought another container of it. So also that just another reminder that when you try something, sometimes give it more than one try. It may not work exactly the same. You just have to figure out what it's best used for. But if you have gel medium or Mod Podge or decoupage, you can use all of those. Now this paper, it has that vintage feel to it, the colors, there's a little bit of pink in there, which is, one of my all-time favorite colors, my birthstone's pink, so just kind of going with my happy place. And I wanted for my cover to be the colors that bring me joy. This says there's a key and it says dream big. You don't end up seeing that. I've kept this video because it's fairly short. I've kept it in real time. Many people have asked for that, and so I like to do that for you guys every once in a while when it isn't going to be such a long video. Now, I don't want to cover up the word art, so that's in my mind, that's what's there. Now, a lot of times when I've used collage papers in the background, I end up putting too much paint on top of it. So that's something I'm trying to work through. Now, this was tissue paper, the kind of tissue paper you buy at the dollar store to stuff in the gift bags. as I was doing Christmas wrapping, I found this pink, and I thought, oh, I love the colors of this. It's got that green, the vintage colors, and the pink. And it ended up finding its way into my studio. So I ripped up some of that, and I'm just adding that to the background here. Now, all of this is giving me the beginning inspiration. I've got a color scheme that's been selected. I've got kind of that French vintage feel as well. And I have a jumping off point for where I may take this. And I just want a little bit of this color everywhere. I do plan on using some acrylic paint as well. I could have gone into my stash and picked out colors, but I like using different types of paper, tissue paper, coffee filter, um, mixed media paper, because it all adds a different feel when you collage it down. I'm forcing myself to use a brush instead of using my fingers, and I really like painting with my hands. But if this is what I need to do with the latex glove, for now I will do it. So I grabbed this poppy grid stencil from the Crafter's Workshop, and I saw this little motif here that just reminded me of Victorian, French, vintage, and I'm using some red burgundy. This is just craft paint because I don't have a color that quite was what I wanted in my Liquitex. So I'm kind of mixing and matching, and I'm just stenciling that one motif, and I'm kind of grouping them together. Ideally, I'd like a stencil with, a whole sheet of this motif, but you can do this. Find something that you have on a stencil that you own already and give it new life. You can kind of create your own pattern, and you can put as much or as little as you want. Now I'm patting off the paint on the side. Because I'm using craft paint, it's quite liquidy, so I'm being very careful not to get too much on the sponge or to press too hard. So you can see how the vintage papers led me to choose this stencil. Now I have the poppy grid in two different sizes. So I'm going to use the same motif on the smaller one. I use the 12 by 12. Now this is the 6 by 6, and I'm coming in with some black, but I'm going to just stencil the same element from this stencil. Now you can take tape, masking tape, painter's tape, and mask off the parts that you don't want if you aren't as, want to be more precise. I didn't worry so much because this was a background, and I'm loving how this black looks with it. I'm also loving how this same motif in two different sizes looks, and that's something that I'm going to do again. Kind of put a little too much paint there and got a little globby. If it does that, you can grab a baby wipe and remove it as quickly as possible, or leave it like I did. But I'm loving how this black really worked. And again, I'm just following my instincts as to where I want to put this, how much I want to put. Now, because I have the black in it, I'm definitely going to edge this in black, although 99% of the time I do that anyways. But I'm trying to decide if I'm done. I'm just going to go with the pink, the black, and the neutral background. I'm thinking, am I going to do a wash of color? Am I going to do more painting? So I flip through my stencils and I find this stencil. It's another one of my favorites. I love this motif. Now there's a little bit of green in the tissue paper, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to bring that out. Now I'm using the same sponge that I used with the black paint. It was mostly dry. So I'm using Hooker's green, and it's a little muddied with the black in there. But I don't mind that look. So often I do blend colors right on the sponge. This motif reminds me of Victorian times as well. I'm trying to, make old vintage wallpaper or something. And I'm not even doing the whole motif. Some of it are just parts of it. I'm getting some off the sides of the page as well. And I'm trying to remember to turn the stencil. So I decide, oh, I need a little more pink up here. So I grab that poppy grid stencil and I'm just adding a little bit more. Well, and right now it's like, yes, that's what it needed. Just that little extra something. So you can always go back and add once your page starts coming together. Grab my archival ink as well as my French script stamp. Now this stamp was on a wooden block. I took it off and I'm just adding a little bit of text in some of the more open areas just to add a little bit of a detail. Because right now I'm deciding that I'm thinking that I'm going to leave it as is without adding any more color, which is a departure for me. So I'm happy with the detail that the script did. It just filled in some areas that were too blank. Here's a close-up of it. I chose to leave the word art as the focal point. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching.